Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music. Or as I often like to say, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. Here today, actually, we're not in Studio One of the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society. We are hundreds of miles away outside of Nashville in beautiful Wooten Woods, attending the Victor Wooten Music and Nature Camp. And I'm telling you, it is a fabulous thing. And I just have a distinct honor and privilege to be able to talk today with Mr. Victor Wooten. Victor, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, I appreciate you wanting to speak with me.
Thank you very much. So it really is a fabulous camp here, and you and Holly and your brothers and everything that you do and the musical vibe and, you know, what we've done in nature. And, you know, that's a whole nother thing. And people can find out about that on the internet.
Yeah. It's a different type of camp. We don't do a whole lot of advertising. But we always, want people to come. We have room for everyone. We do different types of camps, programs, and I think I'm glad you're here. That's the main thing, and I'm glad you're here to experience it.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great. I don't think it's going to be the last time I'm here either.
I appreciate that.
So I usually ask people about when music kind of first came into their lives and that sort of thing, but I know there are TED Talks, and there's you put it out there a lot about how it happened. I mean, you were 1 year old, and your brother Reggie put a little bass in your hand, and so you were off and running.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to ask is, do you remember when it was that you sort of realized that music was something really kind of special, different, spiritual, or that it wasn't just playing an instrument? Were there
Well, I don't really know when I thought, definitely the way I think now, because that's always an evolution. But I can remember being very, very young and knowing that what we were doing was special. Now, what we were doing was normal, because I just grew up playing in nightclubs and things like that. But when I was 7 and 8 and we're playing, literal nightclubs and bars from 10 at night to 2 in the morning, I really had a sense of how what we were doing was moving people and connecting to people. Now, I wasn't thinking spiritual or anything like that, but I knew it was special, and I knew people thought we were special because we were really young, but the fact that we could play this music and people would just literally freak out, and just dance wild. And so I knew something special was going on, even though I didn't really think of it as spiritual.
Yeah, and you've been playing for a long time, 50 years.
Yeah.
And I guess as you became more of an adult or whatever, did you start reading books about spirituality and stuff? I mean, I know that you answered a question the other day in class from somebody by referring to the book Zero Limits.
Right.
And I had my own midlife crisis and started, reading a lot of different books for guidance. Love is Letting Go of Fear by Jerry Jampolsky. I mean, I've read a lot of, and writing some books myself. Peace and Forgiveness, one called Heaven is Everywhere. Nice. I mean, it really, I kind of try to find, use books and other information to help provide knowledge. So what books are you fans of? What books were sort of influential for you?
Well, some influential ones that started for me, as far as I can remember, going into the spiritual way, was A Course in Miracles. And I did everything that my brothers did. And I think it was my brother Roy saw some kind of advertisement or article or story or something on the course. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember. I wish he was here to tell you, because he could remember. There was a picture of the book, and the book page was open in the article, and he could read it. And he said what he read on that page, which he can still remember, just blew him away. So he and my brother Joseph ordered the books. So me always wanting to be like my brothers, I ordered a set of books too.
Wow.
I didn't know what they were.
How old were you about? I mean, teens or 20?
Oh, definitely young teens.
Yeah.
Trying to be like my brothers, young teens. But that led.
I mean, that's some pretty heavy stuff. I've read a lot of the course.
Yeah.
That book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, was sort of a simple version of the course.
Sure. Yeah, but from growing up with my parents, it was different but very similar, because the course makes sense, and it's not really too confusing in the, like the lessons or the daily lessons and things like that. Some of the text can be,
It's pretty thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not so enjoyable for a teenager, but I was into it because my brothers were. And it wasn't that I was 100% doing the lessons every day, but the lessons made sense to me. But there were some lighter books that I learned about very, very young also, by like Richard Bach, Illusions, Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Yeah, Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
I felt that you had read that book because you start off the music lesson, which is what we want to talk about, with everything in this book may be wrong, but it'll be all right.
Yes.
And actually, my book, Heaven is Everywhere, at the end, I say, quote Illusions, and say, everything in this book may be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very profound stuff.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Always been one of my favorites, Illusions. And even in my book, The Music Lesson, I do a very small nod to that book, where in my book, the teacher, Michael, just appears, and but he won't let himself be called a teacher. He said, no, I'm not a teacher. He said, and I paid homage to two books. One was The Tracker by Tom Brown Jr., a naturalist, and Illusions. And Michael says, yeah, I tried teaching once as an Apache medicine man in New Jersey, and once something, I can't remember, flying biplanes in Illinois.
Yeah, right, that's right.
That's straight from Illusions.
Yep, that's right.
So that was my nod and my ode to those two books.
So you've been, the course is pretty profound stuff. The books you're mentioning are very profound, illuminating as well. And I'm sure there were other books. And
throughout the years, there's been quite a few different books. Even still, I'll find some books, that'll turn me on. I guess the latest series was when Conversations with God came out by Neale Donald Walsch, and I got that first book. I really fell in love with that book because it was so simple. Mm-hmm. It was just question, answer, and so that was really, really cool for me. I loved those, and I ended up reading them all. And even though I loved them all, and I felt like, okay, I'm getting it, and I'm hearing it again. But it's nice to hear it again. But it was still hard not to read them all because I just loved the first one so much.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. So then, when did you start thinking about writing the book, The Music Lesson?
Yeah, really good question. It really came after I started running camps. When I started running the music camps, and I was teaching the class, and you sat through the class when I put the numbers 1 through 10.
Right.
And notes is number 1, but I talk a lot about
elements
2 through 10
music.
Elements of music.
Yeah.
And the students started asking for a book. They were like, man, this is cool. You need to write a book. They wanted this information in a book. I felt they wanted an instruction book, like a music how-to book with this information. And I was very reluctant to do that. Like the reluctant Messiah. No, I don't want that obligation, And I really didn't want a book I'd have to defend or something that could be called the Wooten method or whatever.
Right.
I like giving people choices. I like pointing in the directions, but you walk that path yourself. So I stayed away from writing a book for years until this was funny. I was in New Jersey. I'm sorry, not New Jersey. I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at a really good friend of mine's house. We hadn't even gotten to the house. He picked me up from the airport, and we were going to do some stuff in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And he had just purchased the Illusions, and it was sitting in his front passenger seat. So to sit down, I had to pick it up. And it was a brand new copy. And in my mind, I was thinking, man, I really love this book. I probably read it 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, I bet I could write this book now. And that's when the light bulb went, ping. That's how to write the book the students have been asking. Don't write an instruction book. Write a story about a teacher and a student, just like Donald Shimoda, and Richard in the book. And so I came up with a whimsical tale about a crazy teacher like Donald Shimoda, a lot of the same ideas, but put to music for maybe a different audience.
Yeah, well, I just have to confess, I read it a couple of times. A drummer named Biko Cassini in the group Rising Appalachia. I was talking with him about music, and he said, you should get this book. If you want to know about music, you should get this book. And it's been an inspiration. And
thank you.
The audiobook is fabulous too. I've listened to that thing about 5 times.
Thank you. I had a good time doing that. That was so much fun. The thing about the audiobook is in the music lesson, all the characters except one are patterned after real people. Mm-hmm. And in the audiobook, I was able to get those real people to read their parts.
Wow.
So my friend Michael, he's a guy that lives in New Mexico, read Michael's part.
Wow.
A great bass player named Chuck Rainey read Uncle Clyde's part.
Yeah.
Because that's who I was picturing, to try to make my characters real. I pictured real people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a little inside thought about it. Sam was a real kid.
Wow.
That I knew I first
11
met
years old.
When I first met him. He's about 27 now.
Yeah.
When I first met him. And a really good musician. Wow. So I knew I wanted my character to have the characteristics of my friend Michael Cott in New Mexico. But I didn't like the name Michael for my character because there's a lot of spiritual books about Michael, some archangel or something. I'm not quite sure much about it. And I didn't want it to be confused with that. But I was still writing the book and just calling him Michael, knowing I was going to change the name. And I wanted a name that if somebody researched the history of that name, they would realize that that name was just another name for music. And then they'd figure out on their own, oh, Michael is music, and that was going to be a revelation. I couldn't find a name. I didn't like it. I saw there was one god of music called Apollo or something. I was like, no, guy can't be called Apollo. So I was talking to a really good friend of mine who was teaching at Stanford at the time. And he was proofreading the book for me. And I told him what I was trying to do, find this name. And he said, well, you have Michael. That's a M. You have Uncle Clyde. That's a U and a C. And he said, and you have Sam. There's your S. He said, all you need is an I. And so I invented ISIS.
Wow. I hadn't figured that out.
Yeah. And you kind of have to figure it out on your own. Only in the very final chapter, I think it's called the coda, I kind of hint at it, where I say everyone's name. I say, Michael, Uncle Clyde, Sam, and Isis, my teachers. It was like they were music or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I sort of thought Michael might be, our inner spirit.
Very true. Very true. As I was writing, I was toying with the idea of whether Michael was going to be just another version of the reader, or another version of the student character. I didn't know if I was really going to keep Michael a separate person, or maybe you find out it was the same person. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I still don't. But before Penguin picked up the book and put it out, I had my own version. And there's a copy of it here at the store. Had my own version.
It's got a different cover.
It's got a different cover. Same book, different cover, because I put it out myself. But if you take that cover and open it up flat so you can see both sides of the cover, you'll see Michael on the front cover, a silhouette, like a shadow, holding a longboard skateboard.
Yeah, I saw that.
But you'll see me on the back cover, same posture, just a mirror image with my hand out holding a bass. So you see Michael facing this way, me facing the other. So it's like they're mirror opposites. And that was my hint that this could be the same person.
Yeah, you do sort of hint at that.
Yeah.
So there's so many things in the book we could talk about, but one thing is, you discuss music as being vibrations, and everything being vibrations, right. and all knowledge and all music being vibrations, right. and all already there.
Sure. I tell everyone, approach the book as fiction, and then it's a whole lot lighter, and there's nothing to argue about, or I look at it like Star Wars, or some movie, Avatar or something like that. There's a lot of truth in the knowledge of those movies, even though the story may be fiction.
Yeah, Avatar.
I don't think Yoda really exists, Darth Vader.
Right.
But what they're saying is worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
But you can just watch the movie and enjoy it. You don't have to get into what they're saying. Yeah. But the truth is there. I wanted a book like that, where it's in there, but you can just enjoy the story if you want.
Yeah.
One
of the little snippets was when you talk about two notes clashing together.
Yes.
But when you look at them from different octaves.
Right.
And it seems to me it has real relevance to today because it's perspective.
It's perspective.
And it's quite a situation that we have going on in our world, and that perspective. Mm-hmm. I mean, music can kind of help with that, I think.
Sure. Well, my thought is this, on Earth, anyway, we live by, what's the word I'm looking for? We live by the power, maybe that power is not the quite word, but we live by the system, maybe, of opposites. Right? Einstein called it the theory of relativity. We are who we are, but only in relationship to who we aren't. Right? For me to be a black person, I need white people. For there to be darkness, I need light. I need sun. To even plant a beautiful flower, I need ugly dirt. Mm-hmm. To move forwards, I have to push backwards.
Yeah.
So everything is opposites.
And that's your sort of affinity with the yin yang.
With the yin yang, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it when I fell in love with the yin yang.
Really?
The knowledge of why came later, right? Yeah. But so it's not that. So on Earth, to be a good person, you need a situation to be a good person in. To cure cancer, you need cancer. So the opposites is just a part of life. And now it doesn't mean you have to choose the opposite. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be bad to experience good, but bad has to exist, right? And so knowing that, it's caused me to not feel the need to curse the darkness per se, or the things I disagree with, but more so thank them and bless them for allowing me a different choice. And in so doing that, it seems to heal the situation. And I don't know if it's part of that forgiveness that they talk about in Ho'oponopono or what, but I recognize the purpose of what I disagree with because it helps me define who I am.
There's, speaking of healing, there is that chapter in the book with Uncle Clyde and the guy who gets
car
hit,
accident.
Car accident. I think that's pretty profound. One of the podcast interviews I did was with a woman, Jane Callan, who has a body tambura, which she got from India. They put him over it's a wooden instrument with 30 strings tuned in A and D, and they put him over people who are dying in hospice to relieve pain.
Wow.
That's a pretty very distinct example, but we see it all the time. You must have seen it
exactly
so many times, the healing power of
so
music.
Many times. even just here at camp, right? We have a blind kid here at camp, and we had this band last night, Jonathan Scales Orchestra, right? And the mom told me after that concert, because let me back up a little. During Jonathan's concert, he invited everyone up on stage just to be around.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Well, the mom of the blind kid, who's just been recently blind, by the way, maybe the last 10 months became blind. I saw them up there on the stage, right next to the drums. I didn't think much about it, but she came up to me afterwards. She said, something clicked in his brain tonight.
Wow.
She said, I don't know what, but something released. She said a week ago, he was not able to stand by a drum set. It would have just like freaked him out. He would have started shaking. And he said, but he stood there and enjoyed it, you know? So something happened, right? Now, in life, like in music, we have octaves, we have notes. You know, if I play a C, then I can play a note higher than C, an octave higher, then another octave higher, then another. After a while, I won't be able to hear it, right? It's different, different variations or different octaves of the same vibration. It's still that C, right? After a while, it's going to be so fast that I can't hear it. It's going to turn into some other sensation. Sooner or later, it's going to be light. Sooner or later, it's going to be something else. Slow it down, right? If we, in this country, we tune to A440. Cut that in half, it's 220. That's a lower A. Cut it in half, it's 110. Keep going, keep going. Sooner or later, it's going to be rhythm. I won't be able to use a tuner. I'm going to need a metronome, right? Slow it down more, I'm going to need a clock, a watch to measure the vibrations, because now they're going to be seconds or minutes. Slow it down more, I'm going to need a calendar, you know? Wow. So we're still talking about all the same vibration, just at different rates. So when we get up to lasers and things or vitamins that heal, we're still talking these same vibrations at different rates. So is it possible that there's a certain vibration of music that is that healing vibration of laser or light or whatever that, you know, the vitamin that does cure or whatever? And I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah. Because
these vibrations are touching you. Science can prove that. I don't know that we can prove what it does, but anyone that's been affected by it, like the mom of the kid or us musicians, we know that there's something there.
Yeah, we know there's something there.
We know it. Now, science maybe hadn't proved it yet. They're working on it.
Yeah.
But we already know.
So also in the book, you talk about music as, you know, being not a
real
thing,
entity. Like,
an entity,
yeah. Consciousness,
and feminine.
Yeah.
But could you talk about that, music being an entity? Or
Absolutely. We're in September, early September, we're going to do a camp this year, 2018, called The Spirit of Music. And we're going to have a guest who's a bass player, and his name is Stephen J., and he's the bass player for Weird Al Yankovic, right?
Great.
But he spent some years living with and learning from a tribe in, I think, West Africa. And this tribe talks about music as a real thing that calls you to play, the same way you call an instrument to play, right? You choose an instrument, right? And maybe the instrument doesn't know that you're playing it, right? And we would think it would be absurd for the instrument to think it's making music without us. Well, maybe music's looking at us that way. We're a music's instrument.
Yeah.
And we don't realize we're being played, right? So he says these people teach that way. And when I think about it, that's probably right. Music's playing me. And here's the proof. Try not to play. Try to quit.
Yeah,
you realize you can't do it.
Yeah.
So what's calling you? Maybe it's music.
Yeah, I also took from your book, you know, the gratitude to show toward your instrument.
Yeah.
And that then goes out, once you start thinking about gratitude in that way,
right.
Gratitude toward everything.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly,
too.
Toward everything. Because again, we're still talking about vibration, right? Different forms of vibration and different rates of vibration will appear as different things, right? but we're all vibration. When we get down to the smallest part of what we are, what matter is, we see the same thing.
I believe that.
Right. So
you're just vibration.
That instrument, which is still alive, right? Yeah. Because if scientists get down with their telescopes, microscopes, or whatever you call it, they're going to see things moving, right? Nothing's going to be still. It's going to be moving. So that's life.
And the instrument can teach us things. Our instruments.
Absolutely. And it does all the time.
Yeah. You also talk about music dying. And I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Well, that is the premise of the new book that I'm writing. Mm-hmm. That's called The Spirit of Music. It's based on the premise of music dying. And of course, it's going to be a fiction book again, but like the music lesson, based on a lot of truth and fact. And let's look at it this way of music dying. Let's think of, we're old enough to remember vinyl records. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll give an analogy. The best way to hear music was the way we did with Jonathan Scales last night, right there in front of them, maybe standing next to him. That's the most powerful. Maybe the next best thing that we had in our lifetime was vinyl, maybe, or reel-to-reel or whatever. But vinyl, let's say if listening to live music can be represented as 12 inches, maybe vinyl's about 8 inches, maybe. Then we came out with the CD. Well, the CD doesn't have the same frequency as the vinyl, so maybe we're down to 4 inches, right? Now the current standard is an MP3, right? An MP3, okay, on a CD is usually made up of what we call waveforms. Well, my friend Dan Levitin, who wrote a nice book about music, he told me that an MP3 is about 1/10 the size of a waveform. So now we were started at 12 inches. Now we're down to about 1/2 inch with an MP3. MP3 through tiny earbuds or computer speakers, maybe less. That's what our kids are growing up as normal, right? So sonically, we know it's diminished a lot. Right. But let's go further. When we use our technology, and you're using technology so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In music, if someone sings out of tune, we correct it with the machine. So the current music we hear on the radio is pitch corrected. So that means we're not hearing all the pitches anymore. It's also the rhythm is quantized. So if someone plays out of rhythm, we quantize it and it fixes it. So we're not getting all the rhythms anymore, right? We compress everything that's on the radio. Every song wants to be as louder than the next. That's why TV commercials are so much louder, because they compress it and there's no dynamics. We're not even getting all the dynamics anymore. So we're not sonically getting the EQ, the frequencies anymore, right? We're not getting all the rhythms because they're fixed. We're not getting the pitches because they're fixed. We're not getting the dynamics because it's been compressed. All for the sake of comfort and ease. CD won't break, they told us. You can't scratch it, they told us.
Financial considerations.
Financial considerations and all that. But now look what's happened. What did we used to do when we got a vinyl? We had our friends or our family, we listened to it together. Now with the MP3, we listen by ourselves. Yeah. Right? We don't even listen to the whole record. We download the few songs from the record we want. We listen to them out of order, right? That's like, okay, I'm not going to go see that movie. I'm just going to take the scenes I want, and I'll watch them in whatever order I want. But I've seen that movie, right? So in that sense, music might be dying.
Yeah.
So if you think about a person's body that has cancer, right? A sad thing. The whole body doesn't have to get cancer. The whole body doesn't have to be ridden with cancer for the whole body to die. You just have to have enough cancer in enough part of the body. So how much of music has to be affected like that before music dies? So it makes you crazy and sad just to think about it. So it's still fiction, but it is something worth thinking about.
Yeah. So part of the mission of our little organization here, Planetary Gig Society, is really kind of peace through music. And I was bit by the peace bug a long time ago, and I kind of decided my goal in life was peace of mind for myself and peace for the planet. If you tell people, I'm working toward peace, doing whatever I'm doing,
sure,
they think, well, good luck with that.
Exactly.
So,
right.
But peace through music, because of the power of music, seems to be a good way to go, a good direction to go in.
I agree.
And what you're keeping it alive here, but there is something. I mentioned the mission, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace or creating peace or uncovering peace.
Yeah.
And that really hit me from your book and what Michael says. Right. To me, it's the most profound thing. To me,
sure.
Michael says, intention is the key to everything. Right. And if we don't believe we can have peace, or we don't really contrive for it, we can't do it. So how can we use this intention, this power of music? What can people do? What can we do to really make a difference and really try to have a better world?
My mom said, if you treat life right, life will treat you right. So that just comes down to do your best, right? Even when you make a mistake, have the intentions of doing something good. Even though I messed up, my intentions were good. Mm-hmm. And I believe you'll be all right. Life will still reward you for good intentions. Like a baby doesn't get punished because they fail every time they learn to walk.
Yeah.
Right? They finally get it, and now it's hard to fall. Right?
Yeah.
So having good intentions. But music to me is what I call a cupid bomb.
Oh, that's so great in your new record.
That's what I look at it, because we spend all this money to make bombs to hurt people. And who's working on the bomb that makes people want to get together and love each other? And in that song, I said, we already have it. It's called music, right? Because you think about it, music brings people together.
Absolutely.
Right? If people don't want to hear you, they don't show up. But people will pay hard-earned money to come and agree with you. That's their whole intention, is to agree with each other. Mm-hmm. And we let down so much of our guard. Not so much the guard, but our hang-ups. Because when we're at the concert and we're watching Bruce Springsteen or Dave Matthews Band or whoever it is, I don't care what color the person is or the skin next to me.
Right.
I'm not looking to my right and say, I wonder who she prays to.
Right.
Or how much money what social status they're in.
Who does he work for?
Right. We're just all screaming together. You go watch the Grateful Dead, man, you don't know who you might be standing next to the richest person in the world, but he's got tie-dye on and jumping around like everybody else. Music erases all that. And we come together for that reason, to let our hair down and agree. And there's not many things on the planet that do that as far as society goes, right?
Yeah.
Politicians can't make it happen.
No.
Not the way musicians can, right? Churches can't do it, not the way musicians can. Sports, in sports, half of the people are against you.
That's right.
All right, but in music, everybody is there, and they're paying their hard-earned money to come and just cheer and dance, not caring, caring who you are, but not caring like your social status.
Yeah.
Right? You love the band so much that you're hugging the person next to you and all of that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And to use what my brother Reggie says, he says, if a politician says, everybody raise your hands in the air, or if a policeman officer says, everybody raise your hands in the air, or if a musician says, everybody raise your hands in the air, right? You know who's going to have the most positive effect. People will raise their hands for a musician, easily and of their own will, no force necessary.
So I guess, if we just keep on this keep doing what we're doing, keep doing what you're doing, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
with that intention.
With that intention. But we need to do it fully, right? Vigorously, more than ever. So in other words, when we play music, we have to have the feeling, the intention. You know, that's why we talk about so much at these camps. Play to make someone else sound good, not just yourself, you know. And so it's why we do it needs to become more important than how we do it, right? How do I play this song? How do I play this? Why, the intention. The child has the why, right? The little child is not worried about the how. I got to put my finger here. They're just playing with a smile on their face and laughing. It's the same way we play air guitar. It's the same way we sing in the shower or sing with the radio riding to work. Yeah. Pure enjoyment. Not that, I have to be the greatest, right?
Right.
We need to do that when we perform. Make our audiences feel the truth, their truth, feel something. And that's what the new book is talking about, of playing with feel, with intention, the why to play, not just the how. Music theory and a lot of curriculums teach the how, but this book is more talking about the why.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm definitely going to look forward to that book. So I just wanted to say, Victor, you've been very inspiring to me. So many people. I've handed your book out to a lot of folks. Talk
Thank you
about
for
it.
That. Thank you.
I'm so, feel so privileged to be here and hanging out with you guys. Thanks very much for taking the time, and we're on the same team, I think.
We are on the same team, and I like the fact that, there are different people doing different roles.
Right.
Us musicians are living in a kind of a tough state where people aren't buying our product anymore. And so we need people like you that are putting the word out there about some of the things that we're doing. And for me, to be able to be here and talk about spirituality in the book, and not just, how do you do that lick on the bass, it means a lot. So I'm saying that to say thank you for doing what you're doing also. We are all a part of the same team, and thank you for doing your part.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Victor. Really appreciate it.
Me too. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.